Hello and welcome to the March edition of IQ Media Hub's Masterclass. I am Madeline White. I'm normally VP Marketing at Paul and co-founder of the audiences, but I'm also part of the IQ Media Hub team, running their socials and this Masterclass every month. And each time I get to have the pleasure of listening to a new guest share their insights from the industry and provide you with recommendations to continue innovating in the media space. And I think Michael is a brilliant example of innovation that we've got the pleasure to have with us today. And Michael's a good friend, I think we can say now. You came to our festival, first ever London festival, which I think just means something different when it's our first ever event. And we also bumped into each other in Amsterdam recently, so doing a bit of a tour of the world together. But thank you so much for being here, Michael.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. You introduced me to a lot of fascinating people in Amsterdam. It was an honor to be on the stage at the first Audiencers Festival. I didn't realize it was the first. It felt so established and looked so nice. So yeah, happy to chat and share whatever you need.
Yeah, thank you so much. So today you're going to be talking to us about your newsletters that you launched first in Edinburgh and more recently in London, and about how, I guess, the creator economy from your point of view, and some recommendations for the wider publishing industry.
Yeah, I'm a journalist by training and trade, and I suppose I meant to be a curator. That was what I set out to do with these newsletters, and I've accidentally become a creator. To your point, yeah, I have, because other publishers have asked me to help them with, I guess, inspired by various aspects of the minute.
Yeah,
is a simple newsletter format of links to original journalism in each city. And yeah, I've become a creator. I've become a business person. Wasn't the plan. It was just meant to be a local resource to help people. But I love doing it, and I'm really happy to talk our viewers through.
Yeah, thank you so much. Should we go for it?
Yeah,
I'm ready when you are.
Slideshow, share my screen. Edinburgh, for those who don't know, I shouldn't assume, for those who don't know, is the capital of Scotland here in the UK, and London, everybody knows where London is. And these are the two places I've lived and separately grown up and worked. So I know these two places pretty well, and these are the only places that I plan to run my own newsletters. The thing is, other people enjoy this format too, and have launched their own versions of it around the world. So a quick bit about me. You can see at the bottom there, I went to college, learned practical journalism, really practical journalism, as in shorthand, media law, news writing, feature writing, radio reporting, back in 2002, and worked my way through a pretty traditional print newspaper career, and then into TV and TV news, sorry, and then moved over to The Guardian on a hyper-local news project, and I fell out of love with news after a little while. After about 10 years of working on it, moving away from local news and seeing the impact you could have helping people, as I got closer to the kind of national news side of things and TV news, I saw that attitude of if it bleeds, it leads, always kind of bubbling to the top of the news agenda. And I realized I couldn't change that. And I was feeling like I was having less impact as a reporter. And I mean, I was in my late 20s, and I made a crunching career change to try and move towards, I guess, the more technical aspect of production. So I learned a bit of TV production, and I just thought, oh, I need to get some different skills. And that was when I spotted Instagram sort of bubbling up as an app, and they were doing really interesting things on their editorial channels. And I was like, who does this stuff? It's really positive. It's global, kind of feels like National Geographic. There's war photography in there. There's proper photojournalism. It was fascinating. And through digging around, sniffing around, I saw a job ad and went for it, and kind of changed my life. I ended up working for them in London for a couple of years with some really fascinating people. Similar thing happened with my next role at Condé Nast and Vogue. Again, a place that employs, print photographers, people who've been in the industry for decades. I learned so much. I was really lucky. I really got involved in a global social production hub, and I was managing a little team of people doing cool little vertical video storytelling on multiple platforms. And fashion's quite cyclical, and it comes around again and again and again, and it was very calendar led, and I liked that, but I did feel like I'd lost why I'd got into news and media, which was that very naive attitude of you can help people, and I really did believe in that, and I missed it. So and during a winter holiday in my last job, I was lucky enough to have 2 weeks off, and I had that thought that had popped up a few times, which was, what would I rather be doing? And it was just using like my skills to help people somehow, and not sell things for other people to make more money. And I was also, on the other hand, also hearing people saying that they didn't really read the news anymore. When they did, it was a frustrating user experience. And parallel to that, as a journalist, I was frustrated at seeing turnout at elections starting to fall locally and nationally. So print sales down, election turnout going down. These things seemed connected to me, and I felt like all people need is something that helps them to know what's happening, be better informed, more aware of how their public pound is spent, how the tax money is spent, who makes the decisions. And so I started to create this little list of just a daily list of updates of original journalism that I could find that kind of had this public accountability aspect to it. And I kicked this format into shape over about 3 months and called it The Minute, and started to send it to friends. And long story short, it's now a similar format used in other places around the world. And I'll come back to this slide and talk about them. But this is the kind of heart of it. This post went viral the other week, and I totally relate. You see this kind of this feeling pop up often when news gets quite overwhelming. So on the left, how can we keep up with all the bad news? We're not designed to consume all of this. You just can't keep up with it. And some people reckon that that's sometimes deliberate on the part of politicians who want you to feel that way and not get so involved. And that's worrying as a journalist. There are problems with news formats, and I can't fix the news industry, all of the industry's problems, but I do believe that, based on people's feedback here locally anyway, that what I've started to work on is helping people deal with this feeling. So as you can see at the top, my goal was to make it easier to find local news and just curate rather than produce my own original journalism. Those days are behind me, despite I get a lot of tip-offs and try and verify things and just write them in as short a format as I can. So it's the format tends to be like 1 or 2 sentences and then a link to the source. That's one of the kind of principles behind it, is always show your working and your source, name the journalists, and allow readers to get in touch with theirs too. So there's a lot on the screen there, but I won't go through it all, but it's starting to work is what this is showing. This is
I think,
yeah.
Sorry, I think what's really interesting here is that you are a journalist deciding this and feeling helpless, I guess, underneath the whole business focus and the idea of getting clicks and views rather than your journalism actually being about the wider mission of the publication, but also journalism in general. And I think that's the real core of, or the heart of the problem for publishers across the world today, and making sure that, I guess, they don't do that. They don't allow their journalists to feel like that, and that the mission journalism is still playing a really important role in what they do alongside business models, not instead of.
Alongside, exactly. It's like record labels having a big act to support the smaller independent artists. You know, XL Records has Adele, and she helps fund lots of small little groups of big people who couldn't afford to fund themselves. And that's the way I think newspapers used to be. You'd have like key columnists who would help sell the thing because they were an attraction, but a lot of those people have gone solo or are just drowned out by the noise. There's so much noise. And that's another frustration I hear from journalists often, is their stuff just doesn't get seen. And it could be, I suppose, mission driven from the top, but they're struggling with their own websites and their own ad model to have their content seen. And one, she's come a good contact now, a friend, a reporter at a local, actually a Scottish national paper, sends me her links every evening before they go live, and she says, this will go up at 6. I need you to share it, because now on average her stories will get about 300 views on their homepage and about 4,000 from the Edinburgh Minute. And it shouldn't be like that, but that's how it is, because I've just pulled it out and put it often at the top or near the top of a newsletter that has no ads, no pop-ups, no videos, no stories about other places, no celebrity gossip, no and it's because the money is running out, the sales are going down, and there are publishers who are frantically looking for a new approach and a new model. And I do believe that change is happening, and it should help them move back towards their more like editorially led journalism, I hope. I'm an optimist. That's why I'm back in this game. I'm really committed to it.
You need optimists.
Yeah, and you can see here, this is 3 screens showing a vertical newsletter, and half of that stuff is sent in by readers. And it's not all news, but it's things that are happening. People that are doing brilliant things, really wonderful people who are doing things for nothing, planting trees, like come and get involved. Like mend your clothes kind of stuff, or just nights out, people putting on cool events, fundraisers. People that make the place we live better are not often reflected in the news. And I was really down on my city before I did this, and I did have a feeling like surely things aren't as bad as the local press or traditional media makes out. And it's just utterly transformed my opinion of Edinburgh and London, actually. Like, these are much better places than I previously thought they were. So here's how the Edinburgh Minute dashboard looks. 20,000 free subscribers, more than 10% pay, which is great. And the model is pay if you want. And I always remember telling I had to go to business school and learn how to run a business, because I earned more. Actually, I'll rewind a quick little moment, which was this newsletter was always intended to be free, and it still is. But I never intended to charge people for it until a friend said people would pay for this. And I said, no, surely not. It's just a list of links. And he said, no, they would. It's really helpful. It saves people time. Just let them have the option to pay. So I put I don't think you even have a subscribe button on that example, but usually there's a subscribe button on there, and it's optional. It's mostly stuff that you can access in public. It's just that I spent time pulling it together, and there's that additional half of, or added value of readers who've sent things in. And yeah, enough people pay now voluntarily £5 a month or £45 a year that it's become a job. So I quit working at Meta and focused on this, and that allowed me to launch the London Minute. And I have the same sort of approach to each newsletter, which is to try and reflect the breadth of voices and types of people who are doing journalism, not necessarily professionally, but through their campaigning work or their interests. And here's an example. I've got a Twitter list of all the people in Edinburgh who are journalists that are not white men, and that's based on my own I think concern that when I saw newsrooms, that's all I saw, was all white men. But actually, even below the front pages, you do have to dig around to find people that are doing, I think, much more interesting work, but they're not in the top jobs, they're not the top correspondents, and they need boosted. And so I'm using the platform to share as much representation of voices as I can. And yeah, a concern at the start that I had, that I think it's good to share, is this legal? Can I guess use other people's work in this way? And the way I do it is rewrite or summarize a story in 1 or 2 sentences and always link to the source. And as long as that doesn't affect the market for the original work, that's fine. And based on the data, it's actually, and the feedback from publishers, it's actually really helping the market, the original publishers, and sending them literally millions of views that they weren't getting otherwise, and subscriptions too. So I'm really happy with that outcome. There's the default subscription page that comes built in on Substack. So I just went with that to start off with, and I've not moved away from it. It's, I think, cheap enough that people will pay, and not too expensive to make people feel like it's unaffordable. And if you do pay, you get an additional like weekend roundup of events that I curate throughout the week, and a second additional newsletter called the Culture Minute, which also includes, like, Edinburgh's a fascinating city. It's got a lot of cultural bodies, and so there are loads of cool jobs and opportunities and shout outs and studio spaces for hire and that kind of thing. So people send me all that stuff. I put it together there.
Sorry, one quick comment. I love on that last page that you include that that third bullet point, that someone is supporting you. And I think that's often forgotten as a value proposition point in publishers, that actually by subscribing or by paying this money, I mean, someone who reads your newsletter every single day, instead of subscribing or paying for a newspaper, a classic media site, £3.75 is nothing, and per month, and they're really engaged in your work. And on top of that, there's so much work that I think what's not in the 2 first bullet points, for instance, is that actually you're a filter. You're a filter for filtering out some of that, I guess, more negative news and stuff that's not relevant to them, and providing them with this curated piece that saves them time, that's easy to digest and read and take in, and it doesn't have all of the, not only the advertising, but also the more negative news or the kind of pieces that will maybe put them in a bad mood or ruin their day at the beginning of their day, which sometimes the news can do. And actually, so that role that you're playing as a filter is part of them paying to support you, being that filter.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't expect that feedback to be so common, but it really is. When I surveyed readers after the first 6 months, I just wanted to know, why are you paying? Are you expecting something extra? Is it because of the extra newsletters? And 80% of them said, no, it's not for the extra stuff. It is just to support this. So
Yeah.
you're spot on. It is easy to kind of follow that format of give away your best stuff and ask people to pay more for the additional things and spend loads of time on that additional, what you think is the value add. But the daily consistency of it is not to be underestimated as well. And you're totally right. I do make a point of thinking about what do you want to see as if the first thing you see when you wake up. And 80% of people read it in bed, which was another really surprising bit of feedback from the survey. And that's a responsibility, and I need to be careful. And sometimes, you know, there could be some horrific news, and or just a flurry of kind of semi-upsetting stories, and you've got to be careful about the order of things. The way I've settled on it, or my kind of criteria, is safety first. What do you need to know that might affect your day from a safety point of view? And then it's more, did you hear about that? And the user need is maybe one that brands don't talk much about, but I consider that to be a safety one. I avoid this place or avoid that.
Yeah.
That part of town if something really bad's happened. And it's a hot topic, and various cities have their own problems. So I don't hide away from that, but sometimes I'll put a beautiful picture at the start that reflects the weather, and put the weather forecast link to the Met Office like in the caption, so that there's a bit of a buffer between your eyes opening and there's been an attack in the park. Like I'm very conscious of that, because a lot of the feedback I got was about people's mental health and how they'd opted out of news for a reason, and to respect that for sure.
Yeah.
Don't want to ruin anyone's day. But yeah, it's grown. This chart like just goes up and up and up, but it's actually quite steady. You can see the almost 3 months at the start where I barely told anyone about the Edinburg Minute. It was me getting all my sources together into bookmarks and grading them so that I was really organized when I open them and go through them and feel like it's covering all the things I want to cover. And then when I was happy with it, that first March, now 2 years ago, I started to let people know, and it's grown through word of mouth. No advertising, just slowly asking people to let others know about it. And you get was it for every 3 people you refer, you get I think it's a month free subscription, which is pretty good, I think. There's a little blip on the chart as well where it really rocketed up, and a local crime writer who's one of the best sellers in the UK, Ian Rankin, had shared this post. I screenshotted his email because he said, feel free to use it as you see fit. And it really helped. He's got a big audience. A lot of local people follow him. He's very well known here, and he's just a good egg. So I was so heartened to get his endorsement, and he reshared it on his Instagram post, and it brought a good few hundred people in. And that was totally unexpected. Like, I think just trying to do good things eventually gets attention, and these are people's reasons for subscribing. They've said things like, it's helped my mental health. I don't read the news for mental health reasons, so it's good to get a balanced what's what. I try and be as balanced as possible. Like, if there's one story with one angle, I'll find another publication about the same story that has another aspect to it or another voice. So there's a little bit of work there. It's not just an aggregation tool. It's trying to be quite well-rounded in in covering all the approaches. And people say that it makes them feel more connected to where we live. Oh, that's a shame. This one was not showing the. Oh, there we go. There we go. More nice things from readers. I can imagine how much work this takes. Really useful resource. I stopped buying newspapers years ago. You saved me so much time. And people also tell me to be kind to myself and take time off, because I do work. In fact, the first year I was far too enthusiastic about it and didn't take as much time off as I should have, until readers told me, take some time off from this. So that's what I'm doing right now, actually. But the thing that I suppose I don't share on here is the feedback from reporters and publishers, because from I suppose it's like a business sensitive thing. They don't want to all admit that they get a lot of traffic from this one person newsletter, and are yeah. It is a weird situation that publishers are now seeing more traffic from a newsletter than Google or their own homepage. But that's the situation.
Yeah, and I think it's the way you said it then, that maybe they don't want their quote to be, or to share this fact and admit it. It feels like that's an embarrassing thing, and I think, and see it maybe as a threat or competition. And I think no, the inverse, and actually you're supporting their work, firstly, and secondly, there is so much to learn from you and the way these readers are reacting. And I mean, all of these examples here, I was reading through some of them just now, and I mean, they write like they know you as a friend, and that you're really providing huge amount of value in their world, in their life, and something that in a way that is so personalized and intimate, in a way that publishers are just not achieving. And I think more than anything, it's showing that publishers are maybe not doing what they should be as mission, in terms of mission journalism, and the way you're talking about this, they are not thinking in that same way. So there's so much to learn, and this maybe realization that needs to happen.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what political approach a publication or a media organization has, you've got to know your readers. And I didn't know, like looking at this screen, I didn't know any of these people, but every single one of them now I know in different ways or have met. And it's introduced me to literally thousands of people. Anytime anyone pays to subscribe, I try to start a conversation to just figure out why they got in touch, and that's how we end up with nice, statements that are supportive, and you just have to ask. And
yeah,
that's not hard. You have to be quite organized in it, and I've done quite a lot of community work in the past, but it's the first place I would start if I was especially like a legacy media organization. The thing I learned from tech is user research is so key. And another thing people always mention is about mornings and how it fits into their lives. And that's another thing you get from like the most basic user research, is just to understand when your work could fit into their lives. And people, like I learned some good values from working alongside people in product, like meet people where they are, and go to the platforms that they already use, and try and own your platform if you can. And Substack is good for that, because it lets you export your whole audience if you need to move. It's easy to break up with Substack. They make it really easy, which is a fair play to them. That's not a lot of platforms do that, but I'm sticking with it, and it costs me 10% of what I earn, and it's so worth it. Like, these people are really happy with what I'm doing, and I feel like I'm just bowled over by the wave of happiness. Like, I didn't think there'd be this level of excitement an interest in local news, but it's really great to see. Most of them are in the UK. You can see at the top there that most people also renewed their subscription after the first year. And yeah, I say that slow growth is better than no growth. And to expand on that, it's slow growth with the right audience. It's better than like fast growth with the wrong audience, because I could grow this thing more quickly by the kind of drive-by traffic approach that I have worked on in the past and didn't enjoy. But this way, to your point, like I know the people, a lot of people who read it anyway. I know what they're looking for. I'm trying to stay true to what they signed up to as well. Here's another phrase that I got from Tech: do one thing really well. That's what I'm trying to do. And as I mentioned about referrals, there's like a leaderboard that comes with Substack as well, and you can see the numbers on the far right there of friends, family, colleagues, classmates that people have brought in, which I just couldn't have reached otherwise. It's fantastic. I'm really touched by that. And I can see when people are referred, Substack tells you where they were referred from. So you see things like internal office Teams groups or Discord servers or WhatsApp. And WhatsApp is a big referrer. And having spoken to a lot of people, it's because they have a WhatsApp group for their street or their block of flats. And again, those are areas that traditionally in media, you're not encouraged to try and reach, but you just can't beat it for word of mouth and loyalty. And these people are vouching for me, and I'm very grateful for that.
I think you've hooked onto the actual meaning of community, and publications can and are trying to create their own space for community on their website. But I think what you're doing very well is getting into the spaces that already exist in the community and being a part of the community as like an individual. And that's something that, like you said, publishers haven't really done as much, and it's kind of felt like this private space you need to leave readers to have on their own, and then build your own one. But actually, if all of these community spaces already exist, people already have trust inside those groups. They're already engaged in those groups, and that's where the real stories are happening, and the real, I guess, information that people care about and can relate to, and that tells you about their community. That's where this is being talked about. And so you getting into those spaces, I think, is perfect for you and really matches your mission.
Absolutely. Yeah. If every business that is trying to create a new community actually did it, this community spirit would be just so diluted across two places and rooms and forums. And I've been tempted by, like, Substack has a chat feature where you can spin off your audience into a chat, and I could do that, and I can see why it works for some publishers. But for me, and with a simple format like this, I don't need to. Well, one, I don't want to be a moderator, and two, I don't. To your point, like, people are happily having their discussions about the topics that this newsletter brings up, and I'm strictly trying to keep away from creating a place where, like, arguments could happen, or my opinion or biases might affect people's feelings about the brand or my moderation. So I just don't, and I let people who are in maybe like a run club that got promoted in the minute share it in their own run club. And the way I do that is I'll screenshot the part of the newsletter that their fundraiser or event got featured in and share it to my Instagram or Blue Sky. I'm on 10 social platforms, and I just use it for tagging the people featured. And this is a hidden kind of engine behind it, and it's totally deliberate, because if your post then gets reshared by the person or the group, there's a new audience potentially now hearing about it. It's such a simple thing. It's not rocket science, but the daily consistency of it, and it generally being a positive thing that looks nice to share. And it's like, I just keep it as simple as possible. I've got my own shade of green, stick that on the background, put the screenshot on, say thank you for getting in touch with this, or I've decided to feature this today because they're doing brilliant things, or you need to know about this place, or this new shop has opened, or this I don't know. There's just endless things happening, and it's I don't need to send people towards my own community. It's much more about celebrating those that already exist. And this workshop, cool. Yeah, this workshop slide is from a book called Get Together, and it's by Bailey Richardson, who started the community team at Instagram. I was lucky enough to work with her, and this framework really works. And it's just asking you as someone who is involved in communities to take care of and look at who wants to endorse you and advocate for what you do, and ask or invite them to do more with you. So it's the Edinburg is an example of like going through that process. And this slide kind of covers a lot of what we just spoke about, but it's really easy. Like, just using referral codes on URLs helps you track who's doing what. And this is the introduction slide that I show to businesses or brands or organizations that are asking these kinds of questions. And a lot of the times it's about flipping your questions over, instead of like, how do we get people to do something? It's less that approach and more about listening to what people want, and see who raises their hand, and being gentle and working with the right people in a kind of collaborative way, less broadcasty. And yeah, this is the success slide. These are all the things I was really proud about in year one. Soapbox is an event that I was asked to sponsor, and it's like a creative freelancers networking event in Edinburgh. Happy to do that. In winter, I was writing about the food project, which is a network of 7 food banks across Edinburgh, which is increasingly busy. And worryingly so. Thousands of people use it daily. And so I decided that would be the charity to donate to. So showed up with the money, and they had a big check, and it was weird being the person in the news, but I was very happy to do that. And then the other thing I wrote a lot about in that first year was the difficulty that local artists have getting funding. And so when Creative Edinburgh, which is a membership organization of almost 7,000 artists, got in touch and asked if I would sponsor their awards, I absolutely was happy to. And it was a 4-figure investment, but it went to just such good groups of people doing really cool things, who are doing better things with the money than I would be if it was sitting in my savings for maybe buying a house one day. And I just have to believe that, like, if you put good out into the world, it'll come around eventually. And I'm not greedy. Like, I'm earning more than I have before in any job, and I'm really happy to reinvest it in stuff that I think's cool and important. And yeah, this all sounds a bit worthy, but it's what I really believe, and I'm so lucky to get to do it. It also, going full time allowed me to launch the London Minute, which was something that I'd always thought about when I worked in London, was what local news do these people read, and how engaged are they and where they live. And I did quite a lot of research before launching the London Minute. I spoke to 30 local publishers, actually 27. There are 33 council areas in London, and 5 don't have news publications. And that worried me, that those who are doing their own independent news are really fantastic. And this is a curation of that work every day, as well as things that readers send in. So really similar format to Edinburg, but it's growing remarkably well, and people are loving it, which is great. And sharing it in a similar way. I did a search for it, for the name of the title on Reddit, and found someone saying that I do the Lord's work, curating London local journalism, getting it out before 7. And that link helped this guy, Adam, get 130 referrals in the door. And that equates to like pretty much a lifetime subscription for him. So thanks, Adam. And then a publisher in Glasgow got in touch and asked if I would help them launch their own version of it last year. That publisher is called NewsQuest, and we had good fun getting that off the ground and publishing daily. And Marissa McWhirter, the journalist who is assigned to this, really has committed to it. She also gets up at 5 and updates her template in time for publishing at 7. So that's how it works, is you spend most of the day getting your template or your draft ready and then update it with what broke overnight. And amazingly, through like talks like this and saying I'll help anyone to start their own for free, people in cities and towns around the UK and now the world are following in this format, which is really simple. It takes dedication. Some people decide to go for like a weekly publication. Some are not local news, like there's a football one. There's one about tech in Scotland. There's one about cinema in the UK. And there's a lot of like really fascinating independent cinema journalism, it turns out. So I'm learning a lot about these places, and occasionally we'll catch up after they've launched to I guess share. Well, I'm happy to share data with anyone. If they're happy to share it with me, they do. And also get questions about growth. And so share tips like that how I use social one, which is just tag who you've featured. Hopefully they've got a big following and they'll share it and be proud that they got featured. And that's a slow, really slow manual. The whole thing is slow and manual, but it helps readers, and it's working everywhere. Like all these places are seeing growth, and that ultimately gets more eyeballs on the local journalists' work.
Well, this was one thing I was going to bring up, and I think we're going to be in agreement, but I'm throwing the question out there because I imagine it's coming through people's minds. You said slow and manual, and I think AI is a solution for slow and manual in many circumstances. So how, I guess, are you different to, or a better alternative to, say, an AI curated newsletter that I know the Independent have launched an AI curated short form newsletter for people that are short on time or something like that. And so how are you different to that kind of format?
Yeah, really good question. I'm different because I've got local knowledge, and all these people who work on this have local knowledge that AI doesn't have. Like there's a huge hole in the road that keeps on opening up at this specific crossing near the park in Edinburg. And you've got to know about it when it opens up if you're riding a bike, because it's a death trap. And AI doesn't know that, or doesn't have the shopkeeper next to it getting in touch to say, let people know that's happened again. There's so many examples of that, or what nightclubs used to be, or the local nostalgia, or like the history, or ghost signs, and the kind of the fabric of cities is what is based on people's memories and local knowledge. And if AI ever does figure out that stuff that's in our brains, then it wins. But meantime, you can't automate the stuff that it gets sent in from people, like that's very analog. It can be a photo of a poster on a notice board. I love nothing more than that. Like that's gold to me, because I know that it's not going to appear in an aggregator. There are some good aggregator websites that are crawling around the main homepages of the main publications, but I'm looking through planning applications, and I've tried to automate some of this myself, and it's tricky because things break online. Like the council will change who they use as their provider or their host for their meeting minutes or their planning applications, and suddenly all that automation just falls apart, and your map is broken, and your Twitter feed that was pumping out all the planning applications doesn't work anymore. And there's a lot of work that would go into that, and I'd rather, even with like my main worry about AI is it hallucinates and can fabricate, and that from a legal point of view, I wouldn't publish anything that I didn't write myself. Gotta just be so careful. So joking aside about AI, like it's useful, I think, for if you need to have a 300-page report summarized, or have it help you find a certain thing within it. That's where I've used it occasionally. But I'll check out that independent newsletter, because you can always learn. And I'm open-minded to it helping me along the way, but so far I haven't found a way to use it.
I know that the Independent have been very transparent, saying humans always read through this before sending out. I think that that proves everything you've been saying as well, about reliability and AI. But really loved your comment on community. I'm definitely in agreement. I think that there are so many things that AI isn't aware of and can never be aware of, and that's a good thing. And we need to keep that as a huge, I guess, value proposition, unique part of what you do. And more than that, you've talked about representation, for instance, and that's not the case online in general. And the fact that you're making an effort, you're being very conscious about representation and covering smaller stories as well that maybe aren't even digital at all and never will be, then I mean that's the things that people are paying for, and probably even more so in a world of AI.
Yeah, the value of it is something I underestimated, right? Like I did a pay what you want week, really to open the door to people who could afford £1, and a few people paid £1, but 10 people paid £200. And as I said, when we spoke before, that changed my life. I was so floored by that. So the value of those I guess human aspects are where I would be putting my time if I ran a bigger media organization. I think
sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, people are keen to ride the AI wave, but maybe sit back and see what happens before like crashing too early, because I think readers get let down by technology sometimes, and this is maybe an instance of that.
Yeah, definitely. And I love your pay what you want idea. And I think maybe even some publishers offer that all the time. And I think I mean, for the average reader, maybe they're not in a stable place that they want to commit to paying X amount per month, but maybe 1 month they get more money in than normal, or I don't know, something surprising happens, and they see that offer and they think, oh well, this month I can actually afford to give an amount, but I don't want to commit in case I don't have the same amount in my bank account next month, but I want to give something as like a gift to you. And I think that's quite a nice way of phrasing it as well. I know some independent publishers have done like buy me a coffee or things like that, but I think there needs to be, I think buy me a coffee loses the support my work side of things, and maybe it needs to be about like I don't know, help me, motivate me to get up in the morning. I don't know, something that's really like personalized, and I think that's a really unique thing to offer all the time, and it's very human as well. It's very understanding of not everyone can afford this amount every month.
Yeah, it's something I need to run a test on. I read amazing case studies on the audiences about different ways people have tested the messaging, and it's something that I must spend some time on doing properly to see what works or resonates most with people. I think you're right. It's about the human aspect to show the work and support the spirit of it. I try and keep myself as on the sidelines as possible. I think I have one more slide. I'm just going to check. Oh, yeah, it's the summary of, if anyone wants to do this, the best advice I got was just start. But to think about what you're getting into. So maybe weekly is a good idea, and or it's a good way to start. Going daily at 5 a.m. is quite a commitment. So if anything, it's like a warning. But also the rest of this is all about readers and help tips to help understand people. And yeah, again, I would recommend that book, Get Together, which has good resources on it that are free to tap into. Yeah, offering people the opportunity to pay is I think a good place to start too. It's not setting it's not like gatekeeping the news, which is already mostly publicly accessible. It's giving people the option, and just some amazing things have happened that I didn't plan. Like in the community notice board recently, a charity put out a fundraiser announcement, and I've heard through someone that works there that they've been offered £40,000. So you just don't know who's reading. Often you don't know who all of your readers are and what situation they might be in. There are some very philanthropical people looking for the right causes, and if you create a space where that that kind of level of readers using the news can happen, you can really help people. And I'm so proud of that. Like, that's exactly what I set out to do. I didn't plan to do it in this way or for it to have this kind of longevity. I suppose it was more an experiment, but that things can happen as if you create the space for people to use the news. There's another phrase that I hear myself saying to myself a lot to remind me of what I'm doing and to not get distracted by all the toys that the internet offers. You could do more live video, and you could do podcasts, and you could do business Q&As or interesting people Q&As, but other people are doing that stuff, and I'm just linking to it.
Yeah, it's becoming useful in your own way, and not trying to be everything for everyone all at once, which maybe publishers are doing too much of.
Yeah. With fewer staff as well, like it's better to focus on the points of differentiation and the talents that the staff have, and maybe their expertise as well. Like allowing writers or correspondents to show what they read, I think is quite interesting for readers, that behind the scenes aspect. So that could be one way that publications look at this, is how could we use a newsletter? And maybe it's to allow their top writers to show what they read and where they do their research, and a bit of behind the scenes is honestly fascinating and valuable, especially for people that are also working in that area. Like if you're an environment correspondent, there are so many ways you could use a Substack or any other newsletter platform to show links that are not just on your website. It's a tough chat. It turns out it's a tough discussion for some publications to have, but it just comes back around, and it really does show that there's proper research going on in the background behind every piece of news.
Yeah, I think all of those are about putting humans at the forefront and admitting that, I mean, when, like, if from a publisher's perspective, they are not just always on the street talking to people. They sometimes getting their information from elsewhere, and like being open about that, and admitting that they're not everything for everyone. I think that vulnerability is really important as well, that you do very well, and I think it's paid off in the trust that readers have with you.
I sometimes say at the start of newsletters, like, there's not much news today. Either I've missed something, or there's just not a lot happening, and if I've missed something, please get in touch at this link. So I guess that's a kind of vulnerable approach to it. You're right. I don't intend for it to feel too human, but you have to just keep the reader like at the forefront of your mind. And if they don't need to read a certain, like, I've no goal in my length, so I can keep it really just say, like, honestly, I've checked everywhere, there's not much happening. Touch wood, I've not missed anything major, but I can feel fairly sure through the workflow that I've got that I've checked everywhere. And I think people appreciate that. It means I can save them even more time. And when it's a busy one, I'll say, get the kettle on. It's a busy one. We're going to rattle through this in 5 minutes rather than 1 minute. And that takes so much work. Those are the harder days, the busy days, still trying to keep them within the actual word limit of a Substack newsletter. I can't remember what the word limit is. It's more like a recommended cutoff of general inboxes. Go on as long as you want, but a minute's a good amount.
Yeah, that's important as well, to keep remembering that people don't have that much time, and I think that's one of your value points. So sometimes you can't talk about everything, but that's kind of the point, I guess.
Oh yeah, 90% of things I read just do not get included. It's a filtering job. And I published a newsletter of all the stuff I filter out once, and bit of an in-joke, but the sites who were included, some of those people actually got in touch and said they found it really funny. So there's a lot that doesn't go in. Yeah,
and that's your value. But I mean, thank you so much. That was so interesting. I really am so impressed by your work, and I think the way that you speak about everything you do is really a credit to how well you're doing, and there's so much to learn from you for the publishing industry as a whole. I think there was maybe an assumption that independent creators were a threat to bigger publishing businesses, but I think there's so much to be done together, and so much to learn from you, as well as ultimately thinking about the wider, I guess, the meaning of what we're doing at the end of the day, which is spreading information and helping people to understand the world. So that needs to be thought about as well. But really appreciate your time. I don't know whether you had anything else to add.
No, just
to finish off.
Thanks for your support. Like, your encouragement in the early days felt like a real endorsement. You introduced me to people who are working on some of the principles behind this, like Dmitry Shishkin was at the audience first year, and he gave me some good early feedback on the London Minute. And you're right, this is a really fascinating time where publishers are open-minded, I think, to new models and new approaches. And I never expected to have big publishers getting in touch with me asking to help them as an advisor, or help them launch things and experiments. And it's really like, I'm so happy that local news is something exciting again, and with potential for I just think it's got potential for making where we all live a little bit better if everybody's more civic minded about it, about all aspects of it. And this is not rocket science. Yeah. So if anyone wants to like replicate this format, anyone watching, I'm really happy to chat. And that's not my business. This is like a free thing that I'm super happy to do and enjoy doing. It's getting quite busy, but I'm really keen to see how other people get on with it where they live, because there are news deserts in a lot of the world now, and that's a worry, you know.
Yeah, even in London.
Platform. Yeah. Thanks for the platform for letting me chat about this.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for taking some time to share your presentation with us. And if anyone's watching has got any questions, like Michael said, you're on LinkedIn. Is that the best way to find you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is the best place to find me. Thanks.
Yeah, and 10 other social platforms. Well, thank you so much, Michael, for your time. Appreciate it.
Of course. Great to see you.